Hi everyone, happy Wednesday, welcome back to Wind Down Wednesday. Tonight I do not have wine, but I will be sipping on some water. Happy Wednesday you all, I hope you had a wonderful Valentine's weekend with your loved ones, including yourself. Mine was wonderful, I enjoyed a nice dinner out with a good friend and also my son, and yeah, it was great. Hi Cheryl, welcome. So tonight we are going to dive right on into 6 underrated beach towns. A couple weeks ago I covered cities and places that were always flying or currently flying below the radar as somewhere that might be potentially a place for you to check out. Again, I want to preface all of these recommendations with you have to go and maybe see it for yourself, but you also need to understand what you like, and you also need to understand who you are and how well you can integrate into some of these places. And I also suggest maybe just going there for a quiet time and seeing what the area is like. Now, I personally haven't been to all of them, just like with some of the cities that I mentioned before, but I've been to a few, and I've also been to some that are close to a few on our list tonight. So I wanted to just kind of bring you some more options. I feel like this is a way, not necessarily to convince you to move to these places, but if you are interested in exploring Mexico, that this is a way for you to start educating yourself, to get online, get a map out, look at ChatGPT, and just kind of see what's out there and be comfortable, you know, either exploring on your own. You have to know exactly, you know, what type of person you are, or going with a friend or going in a group setting and things like that. I'm here to give the information, and I'm here to help, you know, just kind of broaden your horizon in regard to knowing more about Mexico and why I personally love living in Mexico. So before we get into that, I'll just say welcome to everyone in the chat. Hi Dawn, hi Khadija, hey. Hi Fidessa, how are you? Hola Mina, buenas noches. You all can say where you're checking in from. So this is tonight's topic. What do? I help people make smart, realistic decisions about moving to Mexico, especially San Miguel de Allende, without the hype. So if you're thinking about moving to Mexico, or San Miguel specifically, this video could potentially save you time, money, and potentially some regrets as well. This video is focused on beach towns, but overall what I do is assist people with who want to relocate to Mexico and central Mexico, which is where we are located. What am I? This particular setup is not really about traveling, it's about living. It is not Instagram fantasy. This is the truth from someone who actually lives and has been living in Mexico since 2018. However, I've traveled in and out of Mexico for over 20 years. And, you know, I just kind of want to say that because there is a huge difference between visiting a place, going to a place multiple times, and actually living in a place. And the experiences that I've been able to share here on my channel are, I hope, valuable to anyone who's considering moving here, has already moved here, and really, you know, is just trying to get their sea legs and figure it all out. I am the founder of Casa ELM Boutique Guesthouse and also Hacienda ELM 50+ co-living community. I talked about that last week. If you want to know what we did different, how we pivoted, and all those things, please find that video. It was my last week's live talking about the pivot for Hacienda. And if Hacienda is a place that sounds interesting to you, it's a great way for you to come. You don't have to have residency. You can live in Mexico for a few months, explore Mexico for a few months on a tourist visa. And if you need more information about that, you can visit my website. I'm gonna get like weird shadows right now because the sun is going down, but I don't want to put the shades down because I need the sunlight. What am I not? I'm not just a YouTuber. I've lived in San Miguel since 2018, and I've traveled in and out, like I said, of Mexico since 2025. I absolutely love what I do. I love helping people, and it's been amazing, an amazing journey. So let's get right into it. Let's not forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And if you want to comment, you have to subscribe as well. Okay, so feel free to jump in the chat. I will keep checking messages over there. And some of the places that I'm going to talk about tonight, I would love to know if you've been to any of them as I go down the list. It's a list of 6 places. However, I will say that there are plenty other beaches as well. These I'm focusing on places that are not as known, and probably for people who are really like laid back, really does not want that tourist vibe, really likes maybe a more challenging lifestyle in terms of immersing themselves in the culture, the community, the traditions, learning the language and things like that. Okay, this probably isn't for a lot of people, but it is for some. And so I want to talk about it because there's something about it, at least for me, that I'm also attracted to. Now, would I live there full time? No. However, I would love to go, and I like places like what I'm going to talk about tonight because it gives me a chance to completely disconnect and decompress and just, be somewhere where there's water. And so for anyone who this sounds like, you, please make sure you check these places out. You can check them out on your own, online and things like that. Okay. Before we get a little bit deeper, our tea sponsor is Michelle Watson for Ingenuity. And I'm grateful to her for always supplying us at Casa ELM Hacienda with her delicious teas. For anyone who is interested in my upcoming relocation half week, especially those are popular, my half week relocation tour, trust me, you're investing in your future for less than 2,000 US dollars, and you get so much information. You get to come to Casa ELM, you get to stay here, and you just, get all the connections that you need to help you start this move abroad journey. Whether you're moving right now, you already got your residency, or you're working on it, it's just a great investment for you as a single solo person, or you as a couple or family. It does save money in the long run. I'll just tell you that. There's so many experiences and things that people go through that end up costing a lot more money, okay? Let's see, what else? Here are more links to the events that we have. You can check that out at your leisure. And also, people ask me this all the time. If you want to book a room with me, you can do it online or you can do it manually. Okay, manually is going to be sending me a message via my contact form, or you can go directly to my website, Casa ELM, and you can book your room and your space there. We also have additional things that you can add on, like transportation from the airport, Jamaican meal, and things like this, okay? I also want, 2 more things before we get in. I want to tell you all I'm having my annual Peace Not Pieces retreat, which is for women, and this is the link for that. I will be having this coming Monday night, a free webinar, and you can register for that at this link. This is to just talk about what it's all about. Tomorrow there will be a newsletter kind of giving more details and information, and also a link to an interview that I did with Khadijah a couple weeks ago, talking about the journey that led me to creating Peace Not Pieces, but also to talk about what she does as well. She was just here. It was an amazing time to meet you in person as well. Layla is the founder of A Lovely Inspiration, and she's going to have another writer's retreat opportunity coming up in November. So you can go to her page and find that. But tomorrow, please be sure to look out for my newsletter, where it links to the interview that we did and information about her upcoming retreat and my upcoming retreat as well. We're not doing our retreats together, but the journeys that we each have, especially as women, are very familiar and similar. Peace Not Pieces was something that came out of my separation and divorce several years ago, and it's just something that has been such a beautiful experience to host with other facilitators who come in and really and truly connect with our guests that make the trip to San Miguel to stay at Casa ELM and that get to experience healing through art therapy. Now, what is Peace Not Pieces? Before we get into the beaches, Peace Not Pieces is not a place where you come and you start bashing the traumas of your life and maybe situations or a divorce or separation or hardships and things. It really is a very introspective retreat that allows women, it is for women, to heal and do workshops through art workshops. And also we get to sit with two amazing therapists. I've worked with them for several years. Kate Van Doren is literally known internationally for her work. It is just so deep and so touching. She's also having an upcoming solo exhibition in Querétaro for International Women's Day, and I mentioned this last week that I'm in it. And I'm very, very honored to be one of the many individuals that are going to be featured, but she's also one of my facilitators, and the relationship that we formed for her to even participate in my upcoming Peace Not Pieces retreat is so special to me because it's not something that she typically does. And so this is something I've been able to work with her, and also Gabby Osafora, who is also amazing and has been the founder of Casa Corazon for many, many years. And what Gabby does is she creates workshops for women, and they get together and they tell their stories, and they tell their stories through art. I've done 2 exhibitions here at Casa ELM. If you followed me for a few years, you'll see those on my videos where they brought their work, the women brought their work, we hung them around the house, and we had an open house event, and their work stayed in the house for several months, and several of the women were able to sell their pieces and things like that. So it's just been really more than just a retreat. It's been a relationship that I've been able to grow through with them in many ways, and the work that they do with the 3 of us combined, plus the facilitator that we use for our sound bowl and meditation ceremony. It's just a beautiful week. So check it out if this sounds appealing to you. It's happening in May, but this coming Monday, I will have a free webinar that will give you more details about it, okay? So you can find that at that link. And the final thing I want to say, of course, is our pivot with Hacienda is, something really that was well received. We've had quite a few individuals who were interested in it, so please check out this link if you want to join us for one of our upcoming, hold on a second, let me just get this straight. One of our upcoming virtual presentations. We've had several people who have joined us since last week till now that are very interested in this pivot and this change. I already explained last week why, so if you missed it, please go back and find last week's live, and you can understand better what we're doing. And we've also lowered the price because the offer is a little bit different. And it also gives you, like I said, an opportunity to come and live in San Miguel. It's a 30-day minimum, I will say that, but it can be up to as long as you would like, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months or more. It's just a great way, I think, for you to get familiar with without having like the deep commitment of a contract and or buying a house or signing on the dotted line, especially if you haven't gotten your residency yet. So this is a great way to check out San Miguel and see if it's right for you, okay? All right, let's get into it. Let me see who else I need to say hey to. Monique, welcome. Hi, Monique. How are you? All right, checking in from San Miguel. Yes, yes, yes. All right, we'll get right into this. And don't forget to hit the like button, please, subscribe, all the things. And make sure you share this video with anyone. And feel free to make comments about what I'm going to share with you tonight because it's a lot. And I haven't been to all of these places, but I can tell you that I can't think of too many places in Mexico that I've visited solely maybe on my own or, you know, something popped up. So what I will say is on Facebook, that's like going to be your source for a lot of information that's free. Once you start like, you know, looking for things, we all know algorithms follow us, right? And it starts to give us more. So I get a lot of advertisements from local tours given by locals, right? So it's probably, and I haven't done one, but I get a lot of those types of things, and it's probably one of those like really authentic experiences where it's only in Spanish. It's not necessarily catering to foreigners. It's going to be way more affordable, and they do a lot of 1 and 2-day trips to places like around here. You can clearly go a little farther. And what I've learned through those tours is what things there are to do around here and even like, you know, a few hours out. And that's been super useful for me because I do like to check things out. I like to drive places, take a bus or whatever so I can see, you know, what it looks like. If it's really far, I would rather fly. But this is a great way. So for me, really researching places to visit, especially if I feel like I need to get away, this is another great way for me to also like share it with you, but also to talk about like what would appeal to me and maybe what wouldn't appeal to me. And like I said earlier, some of these places I've actually been to, so let's get into it. Hi, Tanya. How are you? Welcome. All right, let's jump into this. And if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them into the chat. So what I'm going to talk about is really just covering general cost of living and what the area is like, okay? The first one is called San Agustinillo. I've been there. That is located in the state of Oaxaca. I've been there multiple times. It is definitely a beach town, okay? So if you are someone who likes to wear, you know, and be very comfortable and kind of, I don't know, I call it kind of like a hippie kind of vibe. You know, it's very bohemian, it's very laid back. It is super chill. I mean, people walk around, you know, down the street to the beach with no shoes on. Things like that. Not everyone, but I've seen like a lot of that very laid back, very chill. You know, people have like their little mopeds. It's not overdeveloped. You're going to have a lot of dirt roads. You know, I didn't get like the population in general, but it's not a big town. What I will say though is it's definitely along the beach. And again, this is called San Agustinillo in Oaxaca. I'll put these in the chat, okay? Just so in case you need to get spelling for something. Hi, Lisa. How are you? Buenas noches, not even quite noches. Okay, so this is the first one that I'm talking about. You can go again on Google, do some searching around, you know, see what the beaches look like, and just kind of get an idea of what the vibe is. So it is really a bohemian kind of place. It is close to Mazunte, which is also a beach town, and San Agustinillo, Mazunte, and then there's Zipolite. So those three are kind of like one right after the other in terms of beach towns. They are very laid back, You definitely have a foreign population there, but it's not over the top. It's just kind of a very chill vibe. You know, you get your little shops and your little stores. It is still catering quite a bit to tourists because I think a lot of people will fly into Hualtuco, which is the HUX airport, which is approximately 1 hour away by car, or they might fly into Puerto Escondido, which is a much bigger beach town in that same vicinity. And you can go to either one. Now, Puerto Escondido is more of it's a beach town, it's a bit more popular. The airport is very conveniently located to Puerto Escondido. Personally, I've been there, I think 2 or 3 times. I don't love it, but I'm gonna just say that in all fairness, I haven't really spent time there to formulate a fair opinion about it, but the time that I did spend there, I didn't really like it that much. A lot of people do, so I think it's worth checking out, but we're not necessarily talking about Puerto Escondido at this point. However, those are the 2 airports that you can get to. These other 3 places that are kind of tucked in the middle. Now, Hualtuco Airport, which is HUX, and Puerto Escondido, they're a few hours apart, but in between there are plenty of beach towns. What I love about that coastline is that it's very underdeveloped. So if you choose or opt to stay in a guest house or a hotel, do your homework, do your research. If you're staying long term and you want to visit for a while, just kind of do your homework, do your research before making a longer term commitment to being there. And I'll tell you why, because it is very rural in a lot of those places. And if you're someone who is not into creepy crawlers, not everywhere, but you know, just kind of a place that's very rural, it's very jungle kind of in some areas, but then once you get to the beach, the beaches are just amazing. They're really clean, they're really beautiful. Some of them are very dangerous. I will just put that in there. Some of them are very dangerous. It's a very popular area for surfers, so you know what kind of waves surfers ride on. So if you're not a strong swimmer, make sure you know where you're going and make sure you know where you are. You're not wading way out into the water and then it sucks you up. All right, giving you the real. And I've been to this part of Mexico for years, and it's definitely one of my favorite parts of Mexico in terms of a beach. That is my choice. It's beautiful. You know, there are lots of rock formations. I like the vibe. It's more chill, more laid back. It's typically hot all the time. So it's definitely something that I think a lot of people would enjoy, even if you were just going for a time. Generally calm, small village environment. Oaxaca ranks mid-range nationally, but coastal villages remain pretty low in terms of, like just things that are happening. Ease of living, AI gave it a 2 out of 5. And I think it's because of what I just said. It's very remote, so it's not a place where if you don't have a vehicle, you're going to get around very easily unless you hire a driver. Pretty affordable to hire a driver and someone to pick you up. However, you definitely need to understand that the distances are going to be a bit further apart, okay? Cost of living for 1 to 2 people, we're talking $1,200 to $2,000-ish USD per month, which personally I think is a bit on the high side. I really feel that you can, depending on your style, you can find something that's a bit more affordable. 2 bedrooms near the beach, you can probably find something that's like $900 to $1,800 USD per month, okay? Just 1 second. Just a second, my son has to meet someone and he is not upset. 1 second, audience. Alrighty. Okay, let's see, what else do I want to share about that? They have limited health care in that area, and it's definitely a cash economy for sure. We have strong, slow vibe, living vibes, and it's best suited for independent lifestyle, okay? So what else do you need to know about that? Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to, my kiddo is supposed to meet someone. Of course, I told him to be ready, and he didn't. Okay, there he is. All right, sorry for the interrupt. Let's see, comment, photos, let's see. Hi, how are you? Rajal, I hope I'm saying that right. Photos after the pause. Hello from Paula. Hola, Paula. Hola, Vernita. Welcome, welcome. ¿Cómo estás? Bien, gracias. ¿Y tú? All right, let's get back to the list. The next place I have not been to, but I've been close by, and I may have driven through it. It's called Lo de Marcos, and that's in Nayarit. And it's what they say, it's what Sayulita was like 15 to 20 years ago. I have been to Sayulita, I have been to Nayarit. This is closer to Puerto Vallarta, which is in the state of Jalisco. And to be honest with you, I didn't love Puerto Vallarta personally. I thought that the beaches there were not as pretty. They just, I don't know what it was. I just felt that they were kind of more on the brown water, kind of not so like tropical looking, not so, Caribbean. I know it's not the Caribbean part of the ocean, but the beaches for me weren't very attractive. Now, this was my experience in Puerto Vallarta, which all of these little areas are close to. Sayulita, I believe, is about 1 hour, maybe a little bit more away from Puerto Vallarta. I went to Nuevo Vallarta as well, and I just wasn't impressed. Now, what I will say, it is definitely more developed, and it is definitely, like with more conveniences like Costco's and malls and all that other stuff. Again, that's not what we're talking about tonight. And Puerto Vallarta is clearly very attractive to many people. I think it's attractive because it has a lot of the things that people expect and want, and it's at the beach. Now, for those of you who live in Puerto Vallarta, good on you. Like there's nothing wrong with it, or if that's a place that you really love and you're considering. I just don't feel like it's as pretty as a beach town can be or get. The beaches to me are not that nice. And if there are nice beaches, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I actually spent 1 month or more there several summers ago, and we went, I think it was further north along the coastline, and it did get a little bit nicer as we drove up the coastline. We went to a beautiful botanical garden. So it definitely has its pluses, but some minuses. We stayed in this lovely villa, all the things, and it was really nice. But Sayulita I found to be another one of those more developed than the beach that I just mentioned, but again, it still had a very touristy vibe, the market, the pressure to buy things if you pass by the stalls and all that other stuff. And that's normal, that's normal. I don't feel as much of that in the beaches I mentioned in Oaxaca along the beach line. They don't really bother you. It's just like you go in the shop, they ask if you need help, and then that's kind of it. Sayulita, I only spent 1 day there, so I really thought it was a nice, cool, again, kind of laid back hippie vibe. But this other beach that's close to it, close to Nayarit, or in Nayarit, is called De Los Marcos. It's a more authentic coastal town, and it is close to Sayulita. It has a very authentic Mexican community, very affordable rent, friendly mix of locals and foreigners. The beach life is without like the Instagram influencer energy, which I think there are lots of places that still exist. Now, I'm not saying it tonight as like, oh, let's all flock to it. Again, I'm going to emphasize that tonight we're just talking about other options for people to have like maybe a more chill experience, going to more places that are more authentic and or more affordable. That's also key. A lot of individuals are really looking for a more affordable place to live, even if you're just going there for 1 or 2 months and you just want to decompress, especially for creatives. I think that those are the spaces that creatives enjoy being in without, too much distraction around you. Again, if you are all about Tulum, Cancun, the resorts, you already know where to go to find that, okay? The population there, it says a little over 2,000 people, so that's not a lot. San Miguel has about 190 to 200,000. The closest airport to this particular beach is Puerto Vallarta. It's about 1 hour away, and it's foreign friendly, okay? It gives it ease of living, 4 out of 5 stars. There you go. Cost of living, all right, $1,300 US to $2,200 a month. 2 bedrooms near the beach would probably run about $800 to $1,600 USD for a long-term lease. Off-season rentals are often lower in most places in Mexico, not just there. I also recommend, this past Monday I had a relocation webinar, and I like to let people know that, you don't have to necessarily go through a realtor to find a place, especially if you have a smaller budget. Realtors don't really want to work too hard for you if your budget is lower. And to find the best places where they are, the availability, cost, and even maybe renting directly from a local owner is going to be on Facebook. And there are plenty of pages on Facebook that you can find information. I just recommend that you have someone look at your contract, pay someone to do that, make sure it's okay. Have a local person that you might, trust to do that, or a realtor to look at it, or an attorney to look at it, just to make sure that it's sound and clear, okay? It is a walkable town, easy grocery access, strong community vibe, and a quiet nightlife. It's not a party town, and it says it's one of the easiest transitions for foreigners who are seeking low drama beach living, okay? To me, low drama beach living is comparing it to, I'm gonna compare it to South Beach, because I actually lived very close to South Beach back in the day, and I remember my first trip to Cancun was by myself. I just kind of took it was a Valentine's Day weekend. I had time off, and I was just like, I found an inexpensive ticket, jumped on, I think it was Southwest Airlines, and I flew into Cancun. Had never been there before. I'd been to other parts of Mexico, but I'd never been to Cancun. And I didn't stay at a resort. I stayed at like a hotel in the city, which was cool. I did some like day excursions and stuff. One of my day excursions included going to Playa. And I remember at the time thinking like, oh, this is the hype, this was a while ago. This is the hype, Playa del Carmen, whatever. It felt like South Beach. There were so many people and just a lot of things going on. Definitely fun for tourism and all of that. But it was just one of those places where it just felt very similar to where I had come from. And so definitely was never a place that I considered moving to, even though I love, that weather. I do. I am a person who loves, not necessarily, well, I guess I love the beach weather because that's what brings this humidity and all the things. But I like it to be a bit more calm. I don't want to feel like it's just kind of a cluster of things and people all the time, and very transient. So for me, that's not attractive. So if that's not attractive to you, then maybe some of these places are. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. All right, let's see who else is in the chat. Hi, Ingrid. How are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Greetings from Jamaica. I would love to be on the beach in Jamaica. Welcome, Honey Buzz or Honey Busy. Thanks for checking in. All right, third, what's up next? La Ventana. Okay, this is in Baja California. So Baja California, sir, is in Mexico. Okay, sometimes people get that a little bit confused. They think Baja California is somehow in California in the United States. It is on the West Coast, and I believe it's its own peninsula. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. If you know, feel free to drop it in the chat. But Baja California is close to La Paz, and La Paz is a place that I definitely am going to get to. I don't necessarily need like the big crazy city thing, but the rock formations coming out of the ocean, and by the way, they have plenty of rock formations as well on the beaches in Oaxaca. I just love stuff like this. I remember years ago when I went to my first visit to Thailand, and man, like the ocean, the water was so clean and so pure, and I just absolutely loved all the rock formations coming out of the ocean. And it's just something that I love. I'm very attracted to this. And La Paz has this. I'm not sure about La Ventana, but it's where it says desert meets the ocean near La Paz. I've seen amazing pictures. If anyone's been there, feel free to give us some of your input. I don't know what the culture is like. I haven't personally visited, so it is on my list of things to do. And I also think, I don't know if it's La Paz, but I feel like, and again, please feel free to fill me in. I feel like that area is not as hot as people might think in terms of temperature, climate. Please feel free to educate me. I'm not gonna go and look for it while I'm talking to you all. The vibe, it's outdoor, lifestyle, desert meets sea village. That really sounds interesting to me, okay, because I like both things. I don't want to live in the desert, but I do like the way desert and water comes together. So for sure, it sounds amazing. Active international community, it's definitely safer, calm. It's a safer, calmer alternative to Cabo. I'm sure many of you have already heard of Cabo San Lucas. I have not been there either. Again, when I hear the word Cabo, I think of all the resorts in Cancun and even in Jamaica, and it's just not my vibe. Okay, there's again nothing wrong with that. I have been to resorts for random, occasional visits. But what I find is it doesn't give me what I'm looking for from a trip. And again, nothing wrong with that. I remember choosing a resort vacation several years ago because I needed to not have to plan and do anything. I needed to go somewhere and everything was already done for me. I can't say I loved it. I loved the resort itself. I loved the decor. I loved the way it was put together, and this was in Riviera Maya, I believe, and it's called Dreams. Highly recommend it. It's great for families, and they have a lot of things for kids to do, a lot of things for adults, but it was a more intimate resort, and I definitely enjoyed myself. However, it's just, for me, I don't feel that I'm getting to see the local experience, and that's something that I prefer over going somewhere where everything feels very planned out and very, just like thrown at you, because there's so much going on. You don't even know what to do first. That's just not my vibe. But Cabo, that's what I think of when I hear Cabo. Again, if you want to educate me on that, if you've been there, you have had other experiences that were off the resort, please do drop in and let us know, even if you're watching this on the replay. It says it has incredible sunsets and nature. What I will say about the west coast of Mexico is I have experienced sunsets basically around Mexico in general, but one of my favorite sunsets definitely was Mazatlan, which is on the same side as La Paz, and it was spectacular every day. It was very spectacular. So I can only imagine, and definitely it's going to be on my list. And it's a great place, they say, for active adults and retirees. It is also close to an international airport, La Paz Airport. The airport code is LAP, like LAP, and it's 45 minutes to get there. Foreign friendly, very kiteboarding, and I guess a heavy retiree community. Again, maybe that's for you, maybe not for you, but it could be for you, because if you want something a bit more laid back, but not too crazy, maybe that's it. Ease of living, it's giving it a 4 out of 5. And cost of living, so for a 2-bedroom near the beach, overall $1,400 to $2,800 USD. Now that, if you qualify to live in Mexico, this is clearly going to be covered, this amount. Cost of living overall is about $2,800 a month. That's for 2 people, and this is close to the ocean and all of that. I am, again, convinced that you can find places for a bit less, and even places where you can stay for a shorter period of time than a 1-year contract. I really believe that going on local sites and things like that is going to be your best bet if you don't want to spend that amount, okay? What's good about that area? Strong infrastructure, and it is close to La Paz. It's a very active outdoor culture. Seasonal wind, see, I knew it was kind of cold there, is November to March. I know they have a cold season, so please look it up, because all the places and beaches in Mexico are not hot, okay? Some friends, I believe, just went there or to that area a couple weeks ago and said it was kind of cold. They were expecting it to be warmer. Again, feel free to educate me in the comments. It is an excellent option for 50 plus, anyone who's looking to relocate or just visit, okay? I'm gonna put that name in here, and I feel like I missed the previous one as well. So the previous one was Lo de Marcos in Nayarit, and I'm gonna put it in here for those who want to check it out. This was number 2. Let me just put that here, number 2. And the one I just talked about is number 3. Okay, La Ventana. Ventana, I believe, is windows. Okay, this one, I've never heard of it. It's called Chacala. I don't know if I'm saying it properly. Also in Nayarit, okay, and this is a small, it says swimmable bay north of Puerto Vallarta. Now, it might have been on the route that I took to get to the botanical garden when I was there a few summers ago. And there was a town that I went to, I think it was called Tutalo or something like this. And the town was cool. It was extremely authentic Mexican. They had a beautiful square. People were super friendly. They were selling food in the square and all the things, but we drove along the coastline, so the coastline kind of came and went at times. So this is probably on the way, and as we went further north, I personally thought that the water looked a little bit nicer. But it is a small area. It says it has a small protected cove village. It's one of the prettiest swimmable beaches on the Pacific. Okay, that's saying a lot. It's a very tiny village atmosphere, strong local community, ideal for peaceful seasonal living. Listen, that's just like what I'm looking for. I want to get out of the cold. Again, I don't know what the weather's like. I would have to do some more research. I want to be out of the cooler months, and I'm not going to say cold, because San Miguel isn't freezing. It's not snow, ice, sleet, and all of these things that have been hitting the northern part of the United States and even Florida. I had a few people tell me that they were like freezing in Florida. It was like in the 30s or whatever. We do get that sometimes in the morning, but then it heats up, okay? But I don't like any of it. So this sounds really up my alley. This sounds like a place that I would literally jump in my car and drive to. Sounds very tiny. And you know, you can get to know the people that live there. It says that it has 300 people. Now, that may just not be for you. However, it is an option. So you can go and check that out at some point. And it's the closest airport is still Puerto Vallarta. However, that is still 2 hours away. This gives you perspective on how big Mexico is. They do have another airport called Tepic, and that's TPQ, and that's 1 hour away. It says it's foreign friendly. It's increasing, but it's still very Mexican, right up my alley. Safety, it says Nayarit ranks among the safer states nationally. So this is in the state of Nayarit. Ease of living is giving it a 3 out of 5. Cost of living is, for a 2-bedroom near the beach, is $700 to $1,400 USD in rent. And cost of living overall, I guess, is $1,100 to $1,900 a month if you wanted to stay there. Let me put this name over here for you in case this sounds like something you want to check out. Okay. Let's see, what else are they talking about here? It says quiet outside of the holidays. It's pretty chill. Limited medical and shopping access. That is important, okay? Because when I go to Oaxaca, I stay at a very secluded space along the beach. Not always, but often. And like, I don't even really leave the house. So a few summers ago, I went with a group of lady friends, and we chilled hard for days. We gave them a list of all the things we wanted. They had 2 ladies who came and cooked for us. Pretty much, I think it was breakfast and dinner. No, we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We had an amazing view of the Pacific Ocean. And again, I've been there plenty of times. So I already knew what to expect. It's very in the jungle setting, but it was just amazing. Didn't need to go anywhere, stayed there for the whole week, decompressed, talked our ears and our mouths and lips and everything we could talk about under the sun, we did. And it was really such a memorable trip. We actually did go down to the beach from where the house was, and we did like a lunch. They have a hotel in this particular area that's on the beach, and we had lunch there a couple times, hung out, but there was a pool and all this stuff. So the point is that I enjoy those kind of getaways where you can just do nothing and everything is kind of, provided. The ladies gave us amazing service, we had a masseuse come to the house who also sold us some jewelry. So it was really a beautiful thing. Now, if you're going there and you're going to stay for a while, I highly recommend getting a vehicle, renting a vehicle. You can find those also online. You can also find them at the airport. Like if you fly into Hualtuco or any of the airports, you can probably rent a car for a pretty fair price. Or hire someone to, maybe pick you up and take you to the places. But if it says limited access to medical and shopping, you really need to understand what that looks like. And if there is an emergency, where are you going? You need to know that in advance, okay? Very important that you know where you're going if an emergency comes up, and how long does it take for you to get there, and what exactly are they capable of doing, okay? So make sure you check those things out. More about it, peaceful retirement and seasonal lifestyle. I like the seasonal lifestyle thing. Go for a month, come back, refreshed, reset, and it's, the beginning of the year, and all is well. All right, the next place, yes, I hear you, Amina. Mine too. I love San Miguel, but yeah, it's nice to get away and just reset. Next place is called El Cuyo, and that's in the Yucatan. Okay, so that's over there. It's over there where Tulum is and all the things. It's a Caribbean vibe, but without the Tulum prices and crowds. Again, I have not been here, so if someone has, please feel free to tell us all about your experience. And I'll tell you more about it. What I found is it's quiet, Gulf Coast town, gaining attention. Sandy streets, pastel homes, flamingos. Okay. And nature everywhere, still under the radar, perfect for writers, creatives, and slow life foreigners. Population, it says approximately 2,000 people. The closest airport is Merida, and that's still 3 hours away, so also nice. I mean, I guess the plus to, even for San Miguel, why San Miguel probably hasn't been, or some of these places are not overpopulated is because there's not a convenient airport. And so when you're thinking about going to a place and that's the kind of vibe you're looking for, then you probably want to go somewhere where, yes, it's going to be a bit for you to get to it, but if you're staying for a while, it doesn't matter, right? If it takes you a whole day to get there, and you're staying there for a month or two or something like that, 6 weeks, I think it's well worth it because it's not going to be crowded because it's just not overly convenient to get to it. Again, I think what's more important is not so much the getting and leaving, is making sure that, you have access to things that you need, whether it's medical or just kind of knowing where exactly it's located in relation to care in case you need that. It is very popular, like I said, for the creatives, and the safety, it says Yucatan consistently also ranks among Mexico's safest states. Okay, it's in the state of Yucatan. Ease of living, 3 out of 5. Cost of living, it says 2 bedrooms near the beach, $700 to $1,500 for a month. Now, these numbers that I'm giving you, I believe they're going to maybe be on the lower end if you're staying longer, right? So always remember to negotiate. Also keep in mind what time of year is it? Is it high season, low season? Typically high season is going to be the months where it's cold in the north and snowbirders are coming down. Lower season probably is going to start at the beginning of May and go all the way till maybe the end of September or something like that. But note that those months in many places are going to be rainy season, which isn't a bad thing. It's just depending on where it is. And I can keep speaking on the state of Oaxaca because I've been there the most in terms of beachside. And when it rains, it pours, just like in San Miguel. The difference is again, being in a more rural area, you have to keep in mind flooding, roads that get washed out. Maybe if you're renting a car or a vehicle, you need to make sure you have a 4-wheel drive on, roads that are not paved. And that happens a lot when you're going to like these smaller towns. And if it's a dirt road, trust me on this, it's a dirt road with giant rocks and boulders and all those types of things, okay? So again, you really need to do your homework and research. I'm giving you the very top layer of information. And if you plan on going through with a visit to any of these types of places, even not just this place, but anything that's kind of a more remote, less well-known, you're probably going to get all the charm and all the things, but you just want to make sure that you are going during a time when it's not going to be a huge shock or damper. Rainy season can be very, very harsh along the beaches in Mexico, and I'm going to say the beaches, not from a hurricane standpoint per se, but the beaches that are kind of southwest towards the Pacific coast. The roads, you can't drive with a regular car, just saying. Not all of them, but a lot of places, especially if you have to go in to get to your beautiful beach house, okay? So just keep that in mind if you're renting a space, that you're able to maybe speak to people that live there or the owners. Hopefully they're, forthcoming with information. It is something to consider. I know hotels that have had to literally shut down because there's so much water and so much rain. So just FYI. Let's see. Hi, Diane. Oh, okay. I was just reading your comment. You said I was scheduled for Baja California, but I had to cancel. My trip to Puerto Vallarta was extended. Okay. All right. I'm not sure if you had to cancel because of the weather, but yeah, you can feel free to let me know more about Baja California, sir. Yes. I hope I'm saying that right. Okay, where was I? Okay, so yes, that last place again is called El Cuyo, and that's in the Yucatan. Humidity, mosquitoes are part of coastal life. I think that's almost everywhere. Again, it can be a bit seasonal depending on where you are in Mexico. And again, I'm going to say that this list is not all of the private beaches. Like if you look at a map, there's so many places in Mexico that has water, whether it's the Yucatan side, south, the southern parts of, some southern parts of southwest parts of Mexico, the west coast. There are lots of beaches in Mexico, and I'm sure there are plenty that we'll just never know about. But again, if you're someone who loves the beach, wants the heat, make sure you check out the details, make sure you check the time of year, make sure you check reviews about places that you're interested in. If you can get, the more information you can get before going, I think the better. And if you plan to stay for a while, let's say a month, to me a month can be a time frame that goes by really, really fast, or really slow if it's a place that you're not happy with, right? And I don't believe in, paying my money for something for a whole month and then it's just disappointing and then I end up, leaving and or losing money or getting into, some big old thing. I typically don't commit to a 1 month thing, but I would if I knew exactly where I was going and that once I got there that I was going to be very comfortable. I am extremely comfortable going to Oaxaca. As a matter of fact, I usually stay in one particular place. However, I told my son, like when we go again, I probably will stay in one of the towns that I mentioned earlier, like Mazunte, Zipolite, or San Agustinillo. I really like San Agustinillo. And I would probably stay somewhere on the beach. They do have kind of times when it gets crowded, but it's not mobbed. I just like the vibe. The food was good. I just realized I need a room that has full-on air conditioning and is really super enclosed. And that would be probably the difference in the stay for me in the future. Is definitely being at the beach, sitting under cabana, drinking some margaritas with mezcal. Oh, they're so yummy. Anyway, I digress. Okay, who else is here? Welcome, Abundance. Welcome, welcome. All right, the last place is called, let me see that I get this right. Let me put it in the chat for you. Hold on a second. Barra de Potosí, San Luis Potosí. No, it's not San Luis. Okay, Barra de Potosí. And that is in the state of Guerrero. And I have been to a beach close by that's called Zihuatanejo. You probably have occasionally heard me talk about that being the closest beach to San Miguel de Allende. It is on the west side, and it is hot over there. I don't know what it's like in December, but when we were coming back from Japan, I wanted to fly directly from California to a beach just to get my beach in, get hot, and then come back. I'm not sure what it's like in November, December. I'm sure it's much warmer than here, but I don't know that it's like Caribbean warm. I would need to do a little research on that. But what I will say is I've been there before. and I think it was in the earlier part of May, a few summers ago, and I was roasting. It was very, very hot. But what I liked about it, it was again a very natural, more laid back experience. And I did not go to this particular beach, again, Barra de Potosí in Guerrero. I went to Zihuatanejo. And they have two other beaches in that area that are pretty popular. It is Zihuatanejo, which is a city. So they also have an airport. We'll get to that in a moment. And okay, what do I feel about Zihuatanejo? I liked it enough. I would go visit. I loved one of the places that we stole. I think the only place we stayed in, we had like a beautiful cityscape. It was kind of up on like a cliffside. You could see the ocean. The ocean was beautiful as well. It was kind of more of a cove. I don't remember the beach being, the beach wasn't white sand. It was more brown, but still very nice. I loved the people. It was a cool town. It was a cool enough town. Definitely more going on than maybe some of the other places. Then there's Troncones and there's Ixtapa. So this beach falls somewhere in there, and it's considered more of like a lagoon, fishing village lifestyle, not crowded. I would check that though, you know, if you kind of keep heading a bit more north, the beaches get really like not a lot of people around. One of my friends has this really beautiful space that she remodeled. They do retreats there, and I'm sorry I don't remember it off the top of my head. I'm sorry, Naomi, but it's really beautiful. Try to remember to look that up. They have wild horses on the beach, and that just makes me smile so much. Yeah, she's posting photos often, but it just looks amazing. So the further north I think you go is the more secluded and way less touristy, less people and all the things. But this one is a place where it's also not very crowded. Fresh seafood and simple rhythms is what it says. Close to the airport, but not deeply local. It says close to the airport, yet deeply local. So basically a lot of locals that are going to be in the area. It's considered a true Mexican coastal living. If this is for you, I feel that if you have a car and it's not that far from Zihuatanejo, you have access to a lot of conveniences. Zihuatanejo is not necessarily heavy foreigners, expats, whatever, but there's still enough to make it feel like a place of interest. Zihuatanejo, city-wise, it's nice. It's not pretty, but it's still interesting. I don't know that I would stay there for a month per se, but I probably would, stay somewhere a little bit further north or so. I remember having one of the best times at the beach in, I think it was Ixtapa, and it was just very, very local, very Mexican, but so much fun. They had, very noisy, but it was Sunday, and there were so many people. They had, but locals, right? And they know how to have fun. They had a band that was just playing all day, but it just didn't even really feel like a song. It was just like, someone with a sousaphone and just like boom, 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 all day. And then they have the restaurants. I call them kind of like the fish shacks, where it's just, a tarp, pretty good food. The floor is sand, plastic chairs and whatever, and lots of people. It was extremely hot. I feel like their beaches are almost like a black sand beach experience. They also had some rock formations, but it was packed and it was a lot of fun. So I enjoyed myself because it was just very local vibe, good food. People were so friendly, you know, very curious. They wanted to chat and all the things, right? And there's just a lot going on. So if you want a real beach, authentic beach experience, go there, okay? I'm not sure about this one in particular, but definitely like the area close to Zihuatanejo, you're gonna probably have a little bit more going on. Okay, I don't know if it's hot like Florida hot, Diane. Probably have to look it up. I think it's probably really hot because when I went in May, a few summers ago, it wasn't even really summer, well, it was summer here. It was hot. It was very hot for me. I remember wanting to maybe go out more like after 4, 5 when the sun started to go down, and or getting to the beach earlier in the day. The beach where we were in Zihuatanejo, I didn't think it was that pretty. And there's like tours and things you can do. They have coves and lagoons and things like that. So you can probably do a little search on the weather in general. But this one in particular, Barra de Potosí, is in Guerrero, very close to Zihuatanejo. And Zihuatanejo, as I said before, is about 5 hours, maybe 6, depending on how fast you drive, 5 hours to get to that beach. And you can get there from San Miguel de Allende. And it's not bad. It's not bad at all. It's a decent drive. I remember it was a pretty decent drive. So I think, that's a good option for those who might live in San Miguel. There's some really nice places. I have a few friends, like I said, who have places over there on the beach as far as Airbnbs go. I haven't personally been to them. I stayed in an Airbnb of my own choice, which I really enjoyed. It was like a 2-bedroom, like I said, on the cliffside. Ease of living there, it's 3 out of 5 stars. Cost of living is actually not bad. It says that it's $1,000 to $1,900 a month. 2 bedrooms near the beach, $800 to $1,600 a month. And again, all of these numbers I think can be mixed and chopped just depending on your lifestyle, what you're looking for, and the time of year that you're going, who you're talking to. Maybe you want to have like a local person negotiate your stay for you, someone trustworthy, and don't pay in advance. Don't pay till you get there, unless you know the person and you can make a deposit of some sort. It's a very rustic infrastructure. That's accurate. Yeah, because I remember like the stores and just kind of like the interior main road city areas. It wasn't pretty. It was just kind of like, but there are a lot of places in Mexico that are like this, where if you're looking for that more authentic experience, this is what it's going to be like. It's not going to be this fixed up, pretty painted, town necessarily. Some places are going to have a more industrial look. But it's like it covers the basics, and then you have parts of the city in Central that are really beautiful. They have like the giant letters lined up with the city's name that you can take photos, and then water and backdrops and stuff like that. Lots of really cool, kind of like Airbnb guest houses and stuff like that. So you just have to get on like Airbnb and maybe booking.com to see what's there. I remember also eating at a cool, I think it was a French restaurant, and also a pretty good Asian restaurant, which is hard to come by in San Miguel, in my opinion. So if you own an Asian restaurant in San Miguel, that's all I have to say. I know there are some that are decent, but they're not great, in my opinion. So basically, that's what I wanted to share with you all tonight. Again, if you're looking for something a bit more off the beaten trail, that is a good start. Personally, I again really like the vibe in Oaxaca, the beaches along Oaxaca. I just feel like they're just more pure. I will say this. Now, it might be Zipolite. Zipolite may not be for everyone, okay? Because they have beaches where a lot of people are walking around naked. And this is not something that the locals have promoted. Unfortunately, it is something that foreigners started to come in and just taking advantage. And I believe even in Puerto Escondido, they've had, I'm going to say, a problem. And I say a problem because it's not something that the locals have promoted and not something that the locals typically are doing. And so how it's gotten out of hand over the years, I really, really don't know, because it's not an area that I've gone to intentionally often. Usually when I go to that part of Mexico, I'm staying in my familiar places. I'm staying in Salchi. I'm staying a little bit closer to Hualtuco. I do really like I said, San Agustinillo and Zipolite. I've gone through, there's a restaurant there that I really enjoy going to, but I haven't actually gone to a hotel and stayed there for days on end. Yes, it is wild, and it's a problem. And I'm not really sure, like I'm not there enough to know like what they're doing about it and or how it all kind of just got so comfortable or whatever. But it is an area that I'm not going to say accepted. It feels like it might have been imposed on locals, and because people bring tourist dollars in, sometimes to me it's very disrespectful. You know, it's my opinion. If anyone else has something to say about it, that knows more about it, feel free to put that in the comments, in the chat. But I'm just saying it like if you plan on going with your kids, little kids, you might want to just look into that just a tad bit more. And I believe it's the Zipolite beach more so than, like I went to San Agustinillo and that wasn't the experience that I had. Okay, so I just want to like put that out there too, to do your homework, do your research. This is a good start for those who are interested in being places where it's a bit off the beaten trail. That is me all day long. I like to do the touristy things in terms of like, you know, museums and places that I can get a great view of the city. You know, like when we were in Japan, we went to the Metropolitan Observatory. It was free, and we went to the 45th floor and we got an amazing, you know, view of the city. Things like that, I don't mind. That's very touristy. The line was long and all that stuff, but I actually really do enjoy off the beaten trail experiences where it just doesn't feel so like rush pushed and all that. And I know I owe you all a conversation with Micah about our trip to Japan. By the time I do, I'm gonna have forgotten all the details. We will come on one of these days and we're probably gonna roll up on the screen with our kimonos that are so neatly folded and tucked away in my closet. I tried it on in the store, have not worn any of them, but it was really beautiful, and one of these Wednesdays I will get to it with you and him. I just feel like the things I've been kind of talking about have felt a little bit more priority, especially Hacienda. So I just kind of wanted to, you know, stay in this lane for now. But yes, he and I will get on. So anyway, those are my things that I researched, and places, some of them I know, and areas that I've been to and that I'm familiar with. I do have another list of like, you know, beach towns for people who are 50 and over, and I will share that with you in another video, separate video. But feel free to drop comments, and I will end this by saying, wherever we go in another country, whether it's Mexico or anywhere else, I always ask people to be mindful, please, of where you are, their traditions, their spaces. Try to learn, you know, the basic language. Be respectful. Don't impose what you think should be, how it should work. whatever. I can just tell you that, I won't name the person, but it used to make me bonkers when this individual would always say, oh, in America, this is how we do this. In America, we do this way in America. I'm like, first of all, this is also America, okay? This is also America. Mexico is also America, okay? So it's best to say in the United States, or as a United States citizen, not as an American, okay? Because the people in the United States are not the only Americans, if you know your history and if you know your geography, and you can look at a map and see North America, Central and South America, okay? All of those are the Americas. So my point is that we don't go to places we shouldn't go to places expecting to have the same experiences that we have at home. Otherwise, what's the point of going to those places? Now, you can expect to have a service you paid for sure. You can expect to have, a level of, quality. If you said, I'm staying at Hyatt or Four Seasons in a foreign country and I paid, top dollar, of course, you're going to expect to have that higher experience. But if you are immersing yourself in the culture and you're going to a local restaurant, like for example, when we were in Japan, I really wanted to have the experience where we sat down on the ground on a little pillow, and I knew it was going to be hard for me to get off the floor, but I wanted to experience what that was. I've seen it, and when I saw the opportunity, we went in, we sat down. The food was not that good. It wasn't that great, but I got the experience, and Micah and I, we just, we respect the opportunity to be in those spaces, and we respect the opportunity to do the things that, we are curious about, but I don't necessarily expect, oh, well, this should taste exactly like whatever, and it should always be, like identifiable. It was a little, tricky there because things were written out in Japanese, and, translating things from Spanish to English is a bit easier. Clearly, we live here, much easier to do, but going there was a little bit more challenging at times. However, I put a grain of salt on everything I do. I try my best to be patient and calm about things when I don't get it, understand, or it's frustrating to me, but I got to do that experience. And so I say the same. If you go to these smaller towns, listen, they probably aren't going to take your card. The ATM machines are probably going to be jacked up, because that's what I've experienced. Even in these beaches that I tell you I enjoy, bring cash, bring money, get the money from the airport in these cases, get the money from the banks before you go into the interior or along the coastline. It's just a different vibe. Have maybe even US dollars, not that you can pay in US dollars, but maybe there's, shops and places you can convert those US dollars to pesos. Some places may even take them. A lot of places aren't going to take your credit card and things like that. Some places are going to overcharge you because you're a foreigner. So, ask questions. How much should I pay? Da, da, da. I've had people say, go to these tour guides. Don't go to the guys in the red shirt at the entrance, because they're just going to charge you a lot more. Go to the ticket office and buy your ticket and then pay them to give you a guide. No one's stopping those other people from acting as a tour guide. Doesn't mean they're gonna rob you or anything. It just means you're gonna pay a bit more because they're sitting at the entrance, right? And this is also, again, in, like I said, Oaxaca. I went to a nature reserve, and someone told me, go all the way in, park the car, go to the ticket office and buy your ticket there versus paying, the guides. They're gonna give you the same tour, but they're gonna charge you a bit more money. Just things to know. But go with grace, go with a lot of patience, ask questions if you can. Also, your phone might not work all the time as well. Just another thing, fill up at the gas stations if you have a car when you see them, because they're far and few in between, all the things. All right. So I hope this was helpful. And I appreciate you all. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button. Please make sure you like this video. And remember, Casa ELM is a soft landing experience in San Miguel de Allende. We have been providing relocation tours. We have several coming up throughout the year. We have other experiences as well on my website, casaelm.com. Please go there, check it out, spread the word, share, etc., etc. And Hacienda ELM now has pivoted, as I said last week, and I said it earlier in this video, that we are now providing co-living experiences for people who want to come. You may not have your residency, it doesn't matter. You can come and you can live in Mexico for a few months. We can tell you how to do that legally, and tourist visa, living here, meaning not indefinitely or overstaying your visa stay, but we can coach you through how to do that. And this way it gives you really a good opportunity to experience life in Mexico, be in community, see if this is something that you want to do long term without the contractual part of signing and all these other things. And we are way more affordable than a 1 month stay at an Airbnb, and it includes breakfast, it includes activities, it includes transportation. It's a beautiful property. We have swimming, we have a movie theater, all the things. Okay, so it's a great way to try on life in San Miguel without the long-term commitment. Okay. Anyone have questions? Feel free to drop it here before I get going. Hi, Fredessa, you're so welcome. Yes, I got to catch up with you and Michael, Mr. Michael. Best Publishing, thank you so much for being here tonight. Love this information. I plan to come visit. Good. You all soon at Casa ELM. Yes, that's not my favorite food either. When I stayed with a friend there in high school, I was cooking because I couldn't. Yes, food is important. It has to be good. I have to say one more thing about the food since you said that. I wasn't overly impressed with the food in Japan. Just saying. There were some really good things. There's nothing really bad, but I wasn't overly impressed as I was with the food in Thailand. I absolutely just, it was so good and so tasty. But that's it. That's all I have for you all tonight. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. It is warming up here, even though right now I do have my fireplace on. It is getting hot. It went from cold to hot. We don't get a lot of in between here in San Miguel. So if you are planning to visit, please make sure you check the weather. Make sure you wear comfortable shoes and all the things, and make sure you sign up for one of my upcoming either relocation webinars, which you can find on my website, and or my free Peace Not Pieces webinar, which is this coming Monday. All right, ladies and gents, have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will talk soon. Ciao.